As the public debate over family separation reaches a fever pitch, it is really no surprise that comparisons to Nazi Germany are widespread, and a growing number of elected lawmakers, congressmen, senators, they are referencing the Third Reich specifically.
Well, this is the United States of America. It isn't Nazi Germany, and there's a difference. And we don't take children from their parents until now. And I think it's such a sad day. People are so upset.
I've been to that camp actually several times, John. I've walked down that railroad siding where the families were separated, and that's why I used that picture. That's the scene where families were separated. Now, look, I know we're not Nazi Germany, all right? But there is a commonality there.
Well, it's a real exaggeration. Of course, in Nazi Germany, they were keeping the Jews from leaving the country. But this is a serious matter. We need to think it.
All right, joining me now in studio is Moshe Zimmerman. Moshe is a historian and the director of the Center for German History at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. Sir, thank you so much for being with us. First, your reaction to those clips we played, these Third Reich analogies, are they appropriate?
They are, of course. You don't compare, of course, Auschwitz to what's going on in the United States, but the general tendency is going this direction. The moment that you expel people just because they are citizens of another country, the moment that you behave this way, it's a very cruel way to behave, then of course you are on the good way to become similar to what Nazi Germany was.
But there's several differences even in the early years of the Third Reich. One of them, of course, immediately is public outrage, that there's public outrage, widespread and bipartisan outrage to this policy, negotiations to change it. That didn't exist in the Third Reich as the tests of how far you could push the Jewish community began, correct?
This is the easy way out to show the differences. Of course, there are differences, but there are similarities, and I think what is striking is the similarity, the way that you behave to people who are helpless, who are immigrants, who are trying to change their life for the better in your state, and the way you do it is very much like the way Nazi Germany did. For instance, let's take one example. When Nazi Germany decided to expel Jews who were had Polish citizenship in the year 1938, exactly 8 years ago, they did something which is very much similar to what's going on now on the border between the United States and Mexico. So I think they have to beware, and the Attorney General of the United States is not very knowledgeable in his comparison.
But can't this horror, and even Republicans say, I mean, this is gut-wrenching audio of the children crying for the parents. Can't this stand alone? Does it trivialize the Holocaust when you jump to that conclusion, when you jump to the Third Reich, to Nazi Germany? Why is that comparison appropriate? Isn't it politicizing the Holocaust?
It's not trivializing the Holocaust. You know what the Holocaust was. You know from the start that there are differences. But of course, the moment that you see the affinities between the one phenomenon and the other, then of course you have to be alarmed. You are not going to compare Auschwitz at the end with what's going on at the border to Mexico, but you are going to compare what Germans did to Jews, to others, during the war, before the war, and then you are, of course, I think, very much astonished.
Moshe, I want to point out that there is no doubt that this policy of family separations and of these detentions, it's grown exponentially under the Trump administration, but it did exist under previous administrations. With President Obama, he personally opened up many of these detention centers. He went to some of the openings. He said it will be a deterrent. Children and mothers were separated under past administrations. So why now is it becoming such an allegory to Nazi Germany?
Well, it's a matter of public interest. And now I think the interest is growing because it is Trump who is behind it, because Trump is behaving like a bully all over, not only in this case. And this is why the media, the public opinion are more interested, are more alert, and I think justly so.
President Trump, in recent days, he's tweeted, he's used the word animals, and noteworthy, he said that this is an infestation, that they are infesting America. That's not a word you use to describe people. That's a word you describe vermin or animals. Does the language bother you? And as a historian who tracked the language of the Third Reich as they grew into power, where do you think this could be headed?
Well, the moment people like Trump use this language, you become attentive, because you know the language is the basis or the starting point for action. This has happened in the past, happened to the Third Reich, and this is happening, unfortunately, also to the United States or even to the Western world in general.
But there is also child trafficking, child enslavement. There is an issue of human smuggling of children to try and get across the border. Trump says he wants to end it. He doesn't like doing this. It's nasty, but there has to be a way to revise the law.
Okay, if you are a liberal, if you are representing Western values, then of course this is not cause enough for you to behave this way. You shouldn't behave like Nazis or other dictatorships if you are grown on the basis of liberal values.
How alarmed are you? How, based on the language and the actions, where could this be headed? Where could this be headed, do you think?
Well, as I said before, if you use such a language, then actions follow. Then you don't see the difference between man and animal, between man and vermin, and the outcome is something that we know from the past.
All right. Moshe Zimmerman, historian, author, director of the Center for German History at Hebrew University.